because it gets so involved. So there we go, we're recording. So for all of you Zenergizers watching this on replay, we need to know this stuff. So I want to introduce you to Tim Sanders, who is going to talk to us about EMFs and the dangers of this crazy world that we live in. So Tim, I'm going to just hand it over to you because I know you've got lots to say and we want to hear as much as we can.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, my name's Tim. I run a company called Omnia Radiation Balancer.
Oh, your voice, you went off. Sorry, you went silent.
Oh, really?
No, you're
hopefully the internet will support me today. So yeah, I got into this game after meeting a scientist at a conference that was held by Michael Tellinger in South Africa, of all places. I went there and there was an amazing festival being put on, and this guy stood up and he started talking about how he had the solution to all the radiation problems in the world. And I thought, well, that's quite a big claim, you know, big talk. So I got talking to him afterwards, and I said, what have you got? What, you know, how does it work? And then that took me on this journey of extraordinary understanding of what radiation is and why it affects us and how we're affected, and then how to prove that we're affected, and then how to demonstrate that our product works, or I should say is effective, because I'm not allowed to say the word works. The internet police and all the rest. But no, ultimately, it's like, what are the tests where we inquire, you know, of the body? Do you like this or not? You know, it's and you've got a lot of experience in muscle testing, for example, and applied kinesiology, and so we do variations of that, and range of motion testing, and ART, autonomic response testing, and that sort of thing. But yeah, what we stand for is basically that any imbalanced energy field, such as microwave radiation or EMF radiation from phones, laptops, Wi-Fi's, you know, smart watches, any smart device, all imbalanced energy fields can be brought back to what we call balance and centeredness. And the physics behind that is really interesting, because it explores the atom in a different way. The atom might not be a proton, neutron, electron, and nucleus. The atom might be, or in our world is, a spinning torus field of light. And a torus is like a donut, right? So a donut-shaped field of light. And all donuts have a hole in the middle. And in that center point, in the middle of the hole, there is a magnetic still point, a magnetic point holding the light or the electrical current of the torus field or the donut in place. And that magnetic point, that trade-off between the electrical field and the magnetic point, is what determines radiation. And you know, that is effectively an electrical wave field. And those electrical wave fields are in our bodies, in this wall, on my desk, and also in wireless radiation fields. Everything conforms to the same conceptual theory, effectively, behind, you know, how electrical current spins in an atom. And the electrical current in our bodies spins in a certain way, and the electrical current in our phones spins in a slightly different way. And when the two fields meet, we get what we call incoherence or dissonance or vibrational disharmony. It's basically a vibrational thing. Whereas all of the traditional scientists will tell you that, oh, radiation can only harm you if it's ionizing, as in it creates enough heat to shake an electron off an atom in the old physics way. But we are saying that that's not the full story, that low-level, low-frequency microwave radiation from phones can cause this dissonance in the body, which over time is not good for you. You know, it's not going to harm you immediately, but we can show that your body doesn't like it, like I mentioned before with these tests. But over time, it's going to have that attritional effect, which just puts stress on your body. You know, your body is having to deal with something all day. You know, all the time that you hold these things, which is for a lot of people 7 hours a day. You know, it's that you are effectively dealing with a stressor. You know, So it becomes a little bit like smoking cigarettes, I guess. You know, the first pack won't kill you. Smoking for 5 years won't kill you. But if you smoke for 50, probably know that, right? Well, it's the same thing with these things, you know. Over time, it's going to just have potentially a degenerative effect in your body because it changes the spin of the electrical current in our cells.
It's just so fascinating, and I love the way you put it, because you know, as a kinesiologist, and we discussed this before, but I'll tell everybody who's watching, you know, when we used to test this back in the 90s, we didn't really have much to test against, because we didn't have mobile phones in those olden days, and we didn't have, I mean, obviously we had TVs, we had electrical pylons outside, we had the railway tracks, all these things, these electricity that does throw the energy in your body off. And we used to muscle test a lot. And the biggest thing we used to muscle test for was actually microwaves. You know, test the food before it goes into a microwave, test it when it comes out, and you will find you will get a negative test, because actually it's the goodness in that food has actually been negated from going into that microwave. And what we used to do years ago, I don't know if you remember me saying, Tim, because we used to do these, we used to just put an arrow on a piece of A4 paper. I should have brought them down actually. I've got these big magnets like this, which are quite dangerous if you get your finger stuck between the two. And we would actually swipe the magnet, and I can never remember if it was the North way, North energizes, North calms, I think, and South energizes. And we would literally swipe that and put that arrow with it pointing out from the fridge or the TV to get rid of that energy out of the house. Really basic stuff, but actually it worked. I mean, obviously it didn't work for ages. It worked for a couple of months, and then you do it again. And we would muscle test this. And so now we have leapt streets forward from that way of dealing with things to what you've got. So tell us about, I think actually, tell us about the muscle testing, how you test it, or go back to, you know, what you were going to go through, and then we can ask you more questions.
Sure. Well, there's kind of 3 types of muscle testing. You know that applied kinesiology is basically where we interrogate the body and see if it gives us a yes or a no. And I'm a firm believer in muscle testing and applied kinesiology, because I had a lot of undiagnosed until I went to see an applied kinesiologist. And, you know, you hold all these things in your hand and your arm is out here and it's super strong. And then your arm just gives way. And you say, well, what's this? And they say it's milk. And since then, I've not really drunk milk. You know, that's when I was 13. And there were a lot of other things like dust mites and other things that I was sensitive to. But that's how I found out. And then, you know, fast forward quite a few years later, and it turns out that, you know, everyone that holds a mobile phone goes weak in their body. And the reason is because everything in the body is electrical, right? Your heart is a big electrical pump. Your brain waves are electrical fields, you know, alpha, beta, theta, gamma, whatever, they're all, you know, measured in hertz. And even me moving my little finger around like this is me moving, you know, billions of cells around my, you know, around my finger with my mind, you know, and the electrical current is running around all of those cells. So everything in the body is electric, and we have never held the electricity grid in our hands before, let alone next to our brains, not before the last 20 years, shall we say. You know, maybe pilots, you know, maybe, but ultimately, you know, we've not had this mass experiment going on. So we do basic muscle testing. There's loads of ways to do it. You can do the arm one, you can do behind the back, you can do lying on the floor and raise your knee, and all sorts of other things. Every time, you know, there's these ones as well. Basically, what we're saying is that when the body is coherent with something and it doesn't, you know, doesn't have any problem with anything, your body remains strong. But as soon as the electrical balance in your body is compromised by the substance that you are either allergic to, sensitive to, whatever, then the body goes weak because it's struggling with something on an energetic level. And so we use that to show that there's an issue, and then to show that we correct the issue. There's another permutation of muscle testing, I should say. It's not actually muscle testing, but it has muscle testing in it, which is called autonomic response testing. And that's where you measure the coherence of the light body around you, right? So they have these kind of apparatus that that can interrogate the light, I think called a pole filter and other things. And they can also show you whether you're not only in coherence with something or incoherent with something. They can also measure whether the body goes into any healing modes. And they do that by measuring O-rings. So, you try and hold your fingers like that, and someone else tries to pull them apart. If you can remain strong, it means that you are in, what they call yang state, right? Which is like this healing state. And what we found in ART, autonomic response testing, was that if you held the phone with our patch, which you can see here, or next to your head, then you measured the O-rings, then the body went into this deep healing state, because all of the rings, there's 2 on each finger, so 4 fingers, there's held against the thumb, so there's 8 levels of that, that sort of strength that you can find in each meridian circuit, if you like, in the fingers. And on all 8 of them, you go super strong with our technology on the phone. So we that was another great tick in the box. And then recently we've done something that everyone can do at home, which is an interesting one. I'll try and do it for you now. Basically, you can sit down like this, and it's called range of motion testing. So you can sit down, right? Don't have anything in your pockets, any mobile devices or anything like that. Leave it and see how far you can take your arm back. Now you should be able to take your arm about to your ear, maybe a bit further back. Then put a laptop on your knee, or put anything on your knee, a phone or whatever in the other hand, doesn't matter. Do the same thing. And a lot of people can't even get past there, So that's an issue, right? That is the body saying yes or no. And obviously it attracts all these people that say, oh, the placebo effect, or mind over matter and everything else. But try it, feel it, feel it. Obviously.
Tim, I did try it out of interest, and I thought, because I have to go and get my son's phones because they're a bit, and something else that hasn't got a sticker on it, to test, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And actually, if you test the little finger, that's your electrical finger.
Oh, right.
And also, if the meridians that come off the little finger, if you want to go a bit more, is the heart meridian and the small intestine.
Right.
So makes sense, doesn't it? Heart, big pump, electrical pump.
Yeah.
That goes weak when you're testing the muscle testing with anything, then there's something electrical around you. And this is what also, Tim, is it's not necessarily just our phones. There are so many things that we've got the unseen sort of electricals. We've got the electricals in the environment. We've got the electrical pylons. I mean, I remember back in the 90s, there was outrage when these pylons were going up, because we knew what was going on with those, because we were testing. And, if you knew a lot of people who lived around railway stations or near to these big pylons, they were getting sick.
Yeah.
And nobody could understand the reasons why.
And so were the animals. The animals were producing less milk and all sorts of things. Yeah. So it was pretty clear, and that the reason that we always cite for all of that is that when man makes electrical fields, whether they're, electrical fields for a TV, or, a mains plugged in electrical fields, or wireless radiation fields, which are, a lot more what we call sort of like an agitated energy field. There's a lot more kind of like expansion in there because they're broadcast wirelessly, is that those man-made electrical fields carry an imbalance. The 0 point is supposed to be dialed into the center of every electrical torus field, but with the radiation field, the 0 point strays from the center and never sits in the middle. So our technology is all about meeting that imbalanced field and then set it to a perfect balanced spin so that it matches the energy in the human body. And that's the physics behind, that actually a lot of people are missing. even, you know, top physicists, they're all trying to work out what the reason is that non-ionizing, non-thermal, low frequency radiation, which it still is, you know, this is radiation that's way less powerful than the sun. But there's a big difference between the sun and man-made electrical currents, which is that the sun is created by a creator, believe it or not, and that creator has created the sun to give life and love to the whole planet. You know, nothing would be alive without the sun. You know, we wouldn't be alive, we wouldn't have anything to eat. So that radiation is balanced and centered, but the radiation from our wireless devices is imbalanced and uncentered, because that 0 point never sits in the middle of that field, which is the way that it's supposed to. And the whole point of this is that everything is conscious. You know, just to bring up the big C word, you know, even electrical fields are conscious. So what we do is we use conscious technology to actually move that 0 point back into the center of the field. And when we do that, then we test on the body, and the body says, thank you for thank you for you know, for correcting that. Because here's the thing, your body is putting up with all this stuff, and you think that you would know if you were getting stressed from, you know, from phones and everything else. You'd think that your body would tell you, right? Well, maybe it can't yet. Maybe because of evolution, you know, it's going to take another couple of decades before everyone is electromagnetically hypersensitive. And there are lots of people who suffer EHS, and their lives are horrific, because, you know, they have to go out in all of this, you know, armor to deflect all of these rays off them.
Yeah.
But a lot of them feel a lot of benefit from our product as well. So they write in saying, thank you, you know.
Yeah, tell us about those, because actually, Tim, you know, I've been using stuff. I mean, as I say to some of the girls, I wish I had some of the stuff, but when I was working for British Airways, you know, years ago, back in the 90s, I used to, because I was really aware. I mean, nobody really knew actually the effects of being in a tube for so long, but we knew it wasn't good.
Yep.
You know, all sorts of things used to happen to our bodies. And actually, years before I started, the Navy did a big report. They did a whole load of research, and they wouldn't publish it because it was so bad, and the effects of flying. So I used to have all this stuff, because when I'd started this kinesiology training, I was like, oh my God, I was like this Mrs. Nutcase, because I would go around and look at all these things and think, well, that's not good, and that's not good. And now it's 10 times worse. And I used to have all these different plates and boxes and things that I used to shove in my pockets, crystals and all sorts, to negate the effects. And I'm sure that they definitely, well, I mean, I tested, they definitely had a positive effect. And this is one of the reasons that people don't understand sometimes why they get headaches if they're near too much stuff, why they feel exhausted. And I don't know what else. I mean, and that goes deeper into more dis-ease in the body in different ways. But I mean, just tell us what you've noticed before we can, you know, you tell us about what we can do about it. What other things are you noticing with people that you've tested over the period of time that you've been using this?
Yeah, well, a lot of people get tingles in their arms when they hold the phone. A lot of people get tingles in their ears, or hot ears, or whatever. You know, in general, people are just using their devices and putting up with stuff, right? And they're not really realizing it. People are not in tune with their bodies anymore like they used to be, you know, because of these constant distractions. You know, these things being on all the time, we forget to look inwards and really dial into what's going on in our bodies. You know, people can have this attritional thing going on where they're not sleeping well, and, you know, their stress levels are going up, or, you know, they're getting anxious, or whatever it is, but they're not associating it with this thing, because this thing is their life support machine. You know, and it's fun, and it's, you know, it's what they need to get by in life, and so on. But that's what we're here for, just to take one more stress away from the body, and let you get on with your life and get stressed about other things.
Yeah.
But I mean, just to sort of underline how serious this all is, I mean, someone estimated that there's like 6,000 peer-reviewed studies where they subject rats to EMF radiation. And they've been doing this for the last 20 years, you know, from 2G to 3G to 4G and now 5G. And you know, some of the things they're picking up are, I mean, there's a massive range of things, from diabetes to, you know, DNA strand breaks to, you know, endocrine system damage to cancers, all sorts of things. So these peer-reviewed studies are showing that this is something that can cause disease, and quite serious disease. But yet most of the science world is a little bit in the dark about why it's happening with this low heat, non-thermal, non-ionizing, supposedly, radiation. And that's where we come in to say, well, it's because it's an imbalanced radiation field. It's all about the vibration of the field. It's not about the level of heat that it creates. It's about the way it vibrates.
It is fascinating. And I know one thing that I had noticed. I mean, I never used to put my phone in my bedroom. Yeah. Now, how many people use their phone as an alarm clock? I never do. Right. I never use an alarm anyway. But have their phone in their bedrooms. I mean, this is lethal. And I started to leave my phone in my bedroom and near to my bed. I mean, especially if my boys were out, because it's like, okay, just in case, you know, they need me at some godforsaken hour. Not that that's happened in the last year, of course, but, and I noticed that actually I did not sleep well. I really did not sleep well at all. And I thought, you know what? It has to go back. It has to go out. So yeah,
well, getting an alarm clock, an old school alarm clock, is probably one of the best things you can do for your health, because, you know, as soon as you have that phone that is, you know, unless it's harmonized by the Omnia stickers, but even then, it emits light, and that light confuses your pineal gland. And at nighttime, your pineal gland is looking to see whether it's you know, 2 a.m. rather than, you know, if you had a snooze at 2 or 3 in the afternoon, it wouldn't start to secrete the melatonin to clean up the blood-brain barrier, right? So that light that comes from the phone disrupts your body's circadian rhythms and its reset capability and the ability to you know, secrete that melatonin, which is the most powerful antioxidant in the body. And that's secreted at night, like I said, and you don't want any disturbance in that process. So you want to switch your phone off. You want to have your Wi-Fi router off if you can. And yeah, you just want to basically get all of that vibration and that light out of your bedroom. So it's a good idea.
Brilliant. Now, Deborah's put in, why has 5G been so much in our awareness more than 4G? Got any answers for that one?
Yeah, of course.
That one, yeah.
Of course. Well, 5G, so as the Gs go up, you get an increase in intensity of the you know, the electrical fields, and 4G maxed out at about 2.6 gigahertz, and 5G is going up to something like 24 eventually. You know, no one's really sure, and some people say it's going up to 60, where there's going to be this deprivation of oxygen, and it's going to actually, you know, shake up all the oxygen molecules to the point where we can't breathe, and so on. So there's a lot of alarmists at that end of the scale. We haven't seen that yet. There's no evidence for that yet, but there have been, you know, every time there's a new broadband spectrum that's offered to the market, they have to officially put it out to tender, right? And that was put out to tender up to 60 gigahertz. So, you know, you imagine the jump in electrification from 2.6 to 24, that's about 10 times. That's turning something up that I can already prove your body goes weak, you know, when you hold a 4G phone through a muscle test, and you're turning it up 10 times. That's not a good idea, right? And the second thing is that 5G has a very limited, because the longer the wavelength, you know, the further it travels, right? So 4G has a range of, let's call it 5 miles. Someone will probably correct me on that, but it's a long way. You know, you can put one cell tower up and it can survive. It can provide, let's say, a 5-meter radius. But with 5G, with those millimeter waves that I was talking about, they're going to have a range of about 500 meters. So can you imagine if we go into full-blown 5G, where there's only a range of 500 meters, you're going to have millions. Just in London alone, you're going to have millions of these cell towers going up everywhere. And that just creates this mass electrification of our environment. And not only do we feel that, but the plants are going to feel that, the animals are going to feel that, everyone's going to feel that. So that's why it's such a big deal, is that we're charging ahead and saying, oh, great, let's connect our TV to our fridge, to our toaster, to our microwave oven, and all these things that, you know, we don't really need that connectivity to, just for the sake of it. And to power that whole thing is just this huge network of millions of towers. And they're even putting them up into space. You know, Elon Musk saying, yeah, great, let's just put a whole load of stuff up into space as well. So you're basically just making this whole planet a microwave oven, and no one's stopping to think about whether that's a good idea. And the thing is, the body will react. You know, the body will electrically react. A lot of people do research and say that the body first and foremost reacts electrically, and then chemicals are produced.
Yeah.
Right. So if there's a chemical imbalance, you know, a virus, say, let's say, not to get too controversial, but, you know, if there's a resulting chemical imbalance in the body, then first of all, there had to be an electrical challenge to that body, because the body is always looking to keep everything in electrical balance. So there's lots of people who follow that school of thought that the body is first and foremost electrical, and then secondly chemical. Whereas all of our thinking is geared towards thinking of the body purely in terms of chemicals, right? Blood samples, blood tests, test for this, test for that, you know, here's some pharmaceuticals for that, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, if we carry on thinking like that, just in terms of the chemical, and we don't think about the electrical, then that's a very big red flag, you know. So, I mean, I could go one step further and tell you how the phone industry tests for safety, but that might get me into trouble. But I can give you the highlights if you wish.
Give us the highlights. Go for it. Why not?
Well, the phone industry tests for safety using a plastic dummy of a human being, right, with plastic skin, and they make this this liquid that's meant to replicate blood. You know, it's got sugars and salts in it and everything else, right? And they put a phone next to the plastic skin and see whether any heat was transferred into the fake blood. So there's one thing missing from that test, which is a human being, right? Because we are not made of plastic and fake blood and everything else. We are organic, live, electrical beings, and there's no electricity in that dummy. You see what I mean? So the reason for that test still being done is because of what we feel is outdated. The outdated assumption that radiation is just ionizing or non-ionizing. If it doesn't create enough heat to shake an electron off an atom, then it's fine. And they do a test to prove that, and they say that's fine. And they walk away and go, that's fine, we tested it. It doesn't create heat. And you're like, wait, there's more to it than that. So we are in this really quite extraordinary situation, like, you know, an absolutely crazy situation where, you know, in my view, the wrong tests are being done to assure our safety. And yet this huge behemoth of a network is being rolled out. And we're all just saying, okay, well, it must be fine, must be tested, must be okay. You know, I'm sure they've done their checks and health and safety.
Hasn't it? Yeah. I mean, it's, I think there are certain people who've had an understanding that it's not been safe for many, many years since it started. And, it's part of our society. It's part of the way that we live these days. So, okay, give us some positive stuff here then, Tim. What can we do? What have you got that can help this? So we can back into
our product is super simple, so simple that a lot of people get it out of the packaging and they just go, are you expecting me to believe that this is going to work? And that's fair enough. I was the same when I saw it first. I was like, really? But then I keep testing it, and then I found out how it works. And there's tiny, tiny, tiny units of energy in this, which are actually part of what we hope is an energy revolution, which is a new understanding of what electricity really is, what energy really is, the idea that, from that 0 point that sits in the middle of the torus field of spinning light, that is the source of all energetic outcomes. It's the 0 point field. It's basically the 0 point sits inside every single atom, has a connected field of all potential. So when that potential expresses itself in life, there are rules. There are divine rules, if you like. Not many people have 4 arms, for example, right? So we all come with these rules that, of geometry, of biology, of all these intricate rules. And there are cells vibrating at different frequencies in our bodies.
Yeah.
Our liver's different to our kidneys, different to our spleen, different to our whatever. Everything's doing its job by vibrating in a certain rhythm, balance, and frequency, right? So, so ultimately, we talked earlier on about the fact that wave field, the 0 point, is never sitting in the middle. So this technology meets that imbalance in the radiation field and sets the 0 point back to balance and centeredness. And once we do that, then we then have the same rhythm and balance within the radiation field as we do in the body, because not all radiation is bad. Yeah. The sun is not bad. The sun is good. It'll give me sunburn if I go more than 20 minutes, but ultimately, if I didn't have sunshine in my life, I'd be dead. Yeah. But that's balanced radiation. And, we want to make the radiation that we hold and touch and use all day long, we want to make that balanced. So that's what Omnia Radiation Balancer is all about. That's what we do. But there is a bigger problem, which is that, the 5G network thing has to be addressed. And in order for that to really be addressed, we need to find new ways of actually broadcasting data so that at source, it isn't imbalanced and uncentered. We have to find a different way. And that's where the scientist that I work with has made a bit of a breakthrough, because he has discovered this new type of energy, which he calls Deca Energy. And it's based on a structure of a dodecahedron, which has kind of 12 spinning kinds of light inside it. Yeah. So it's like a perfectly centered and balanced, remember, centered and balanced, very, very important unit of energy. It's a new unit of energy. You could call it, it's not factually correct, but you could call it an alternative to the electron, for example. It's a new unit of energy that's here, which is activated by our conscious human intent, meaning that we can program it. So we can program it and get it to do what we want it to do. And that's how the scientist who invented our product, that's how he did it. He spent a long time working out how to program this Deca and then how to get it into the sticker. And that's what it does. It's a tiny unit, tiny little energy field that is imprinted in the sticker. But like I said earlier, more and more people need to really realize what 5G is bringing to the table, and become active.
Yeah. So what I would suggest to everybody is that you test this for yourself. And what I'd like you to do, actually, any of you who are watching, and I'm actually going to put this on my YouTube channel, is that you test your phone. And the simple way of doing that, I will share with you how to muscle test. I use it the Wonder Wave. You can do it that way. It's the easy way. And all you do is you put your phone on your body, and your body will either, number one, find out if your yes is going forwards or your yes is going backwards. And I'll share that in the video. And then when you've done that, you can just put your phone on your body, and you don't even need to ask any questions, because your body will go one way or it will go the other way. And if it goes towards your no, whether that's forwards or backwards, and the same with your computer, do as Tim said, put it on your lap and do the arm test. And if you have a negative, which if you will do, I'm sure, if you haven't got a sticker on your phone and you want some, then let me know. Because
absolutely.
Yeah, Tim's given me a link that you can use, and this is absolutely vital for children, because children are far more vulnerable than as adults we are. They are far more vulnerable.
And on that note, we are bringing out a kind of a pendant, looking a bit like this, that that kids will be able to wear at school, because they're not allowed to use mobile devices, the younger ones, and a lot of them don't have them, which is a good thing. But they're walking into all of these fields in the classroom, so we want to keep them nice and strong, keep their bodies strong. We want strong bodies when we're touching our mobile devices, and that's something that we pride ourselves on, and you can test that at home as well. So that is a very big step in the right direction.
Tim, I can't thank you enough. It's been absolutely fascinating. Deborah, is there any other questions that you want to ask while Tim's with us?
Well, there's loads of questions. So it's probably not for this particular call, but I want to know more about conscious technology. I want to know more about, I need to listen again, but you said something about how we affect it as well. So you're nodding your head, but I think there's quite a lot more to it. So,
well, all energy is conscious, if that makes sense. Our cells are listening to our thoughts at all times. We can program ourselves with feelings of love and compassion and gratitude and things like that, or we can be walking around in fear, being worried about things, and our cells react. That's what happens. We all know that. That's beyond any doubt. So it's a funny thing, because that ability to print something in a sticker and actually retain an energy field that never runs out is something that is far too simple for most people. They want to see a hologram or a chip or something or a crystal or whatever. But actually, if you think about it, it's extremely empowering, because at some point we could just be putting these chips or these little stickers on a laptop and providing energy to the laptop, right? And then we start to get everything back into harmony with the environment, with the Mother Earth, because what's going on with blockchain and all sorts of other things and cryptocurrencies. We're just building these massive electrical farms, and creating all of this energy that we've talked about earlier on, and shoving it up into the skies and so on. So the conscious energy and allowing yourself to work with this new Deca unit, first of all, capturing it, which there is a process for, and secondly, programming it with your mind, and then thirdly, imprinting it in a sticker. That is what the inventor does, and he's written books about this, and I'm hoping that it catches on.
Brilliant. Deborah,
I get it.
Yeah. Tim, can you just leave any links, and also leave me links to any other videos that you've got, because then I can share those as well and people can just have a look, because it's such a fantastic, I find it fascinating. I'm sure you do as well, Deborah. There's just so much we really do not know and we're not aware of, and actually it's time to actually step up and step into this, rather than ignoring that this is a problem. We can't necessarily stop what's going on, but we can start to look at how we can protect ourselves by doing something like what you're saying and suggesting. So
that's definitely the first step, is to harmonize everything in your area, your home, your office, wherever you are, your car. Those are the three main spots, I guess. And then after that, we've got to try and bang some sense into the people rolling out the networks, and make sure they do it safely. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tim. Anything else, Deborah?
No, I just look forward to more fascinating conversations.
Yeah, I know. It is.
Thanks, Fiona. Thanks, Tim.
If anybody on the recording here has any questions at all, then please put them in the comments, and I can always get back to Tim, and we can always get Tim back again, I'm sure. I know he's going away for a month, which is why I had to do it quickly before he disappeared, although we need to get this info ASAP. So Tim, thank you so much for coming in. And I know you're off to rugby now as well, aren't you?
Yeah, might be. Yep.
So enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks, Deborah, for joining. And anybody else who is watching, let us know what your thoughts are, and test your things, stuff, everything. Test the food before you put it in a microwave. Test it when it comes out. That's another good one to do. see what you're doing. Okay, so
All
thank
the answers are in your body. You know, your body is an incredible, you know, it's got all the answers, and but you know, we've been misled into thinking that the only answers come from a pharmaceutical industry, for example. So yeah, learn how to interrogate your body and let it give you the answers.
Yeah, totally. Brilliant. Oh my God, we could talk about this for hours, couldn't we? We could, like a mega. Anyway, Tim, thank you. Thank you, Deborah. And thank you everyone for watching. And we will see you all again soon. So yeah. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone else is experiencing. So bye for now.